Hey friends, welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn and I kind of don't know what to expect because I was given the Palette Scout Toolkit by Zollie, and I'm so grateful to Sarah and Anna at Zollie because they asked if I would be interested in checking out the Palette Scout Toolkit, and without knowing a thing about it, I said absolutely yes, please. I would love to check it out. And so this has not released yet at the time that I'm recording this. And so I really actually don't know anything about it at all. So this first look video at this toolkit is going to be a true first look with really no preconceived conception or notion as to what it is I am about to experience. But the reason why I said yes without hesitation is because I really love the Palette Scout. And are you guys seeing this? Look how cool it is that this matches up. I mean, I don't know if that was intentional or it has to be because this matches up perfectly as well. So how that's awesome. That's so awesome. All right, so let's check this out. Let's see what the toolkit is all about. So as you can see, I haven't even taken it out of the shrink wrap. And there was some text on the box that says, pair this deck with the Palette Scout to discover new dimensions of color theory, experiment with your proportionality, and explore your artistic intuition. Includes 89 challenge cards and 22 tool cards. So that's going to be interesting. So if you are not familiar with the Palette Scout, I have a first look video and I have several videos where I craft with the Palette Scout, and I have an upcoming masterclass that I'll be teaching live. And masterclasses are just classes that are either pre-recorded in real time or recorded live in real time. And I offer them through my website, which is lvhandcrafted.com. And I am going to be doing a live recording of the masterclass, and this way it can be truly interactive and as well give you kind of the opportunity to not only like ask questions and get them answered in real time, but also to play with me as I create and show how to explore and create different color combinations, especially if you don't have a Palette Scout, because I can show you the cards, and if you don't have the physical cards to play with, you can help direct some of my color choices. So I think that's going to be really fun. And since that masterclass won't be until December, maybe I'll incorporate the toolkit with it. So as I open this up, there are, it looks like 2 decks of cards that have been shrink wrapped, and a little pamphlet here. And let's just quickly read through this because it's probably really short. 2 ways to play. Dive into color theory using this booklet and the tool cards. And number 2, practice, reflect, and explore with challenge cards. The deck contains 7 value tool cards, 15 proportionality tool cards, and 89 challenge cards. Diving in, this booklet and the tool cards explore 3 principles: value, proportionality, color relativity. The following pages walk you through these concepts and how to use the cards you'll need your Palette Scout deck to play. So here's a little bit of a reminder on the value. The toolkit has 7 value cards, so that we'll explore that as we go forward. Proportionality is the amount of each color used in a palette. You can use an uneven color distribution to create a clear visual hierarchy. That's interesting. Proportionality. Lay proportionality cards over palette scout cards to view your palette in varying proportions. Oh, this is cool. Try switching around proportionality cards to play with other color with which colors are dominant, supporting, and accent colors. That's so awesome. Because if you've seen any of my, I'll have some more classes besides my master class. I'm teaching at Summit, and I've decided that some of my Summit classes I'm going to be focusing on using the palette scout and specifically to create color combinations. So I do play around with proportionality, and I'll show you how I do it without the help of the toolkit, but it'll be really fun to use the tools and see how to incorporate that. So my goal in a first look video is just to give you my first impressions and what I like to do with any of my product reviews and any of my first look videos is I like to do this fresh as I can without any preconceived notions, and this video doesn't get any more any more fresh and than this because I know nothing about it. But then I like to play with the product for a period of time and then come back with a concluding video to kind of give you my thoughts after, because I always feel like my first impressions are just first impressions. It really takes giving it some honest use and time in order to really come up with an opinion that's better informed through actual experience with the product. And so I do have other videos, and my conclusion video for the original Palette Scout is the comparison between the Palette Scout and my color cube, which I also have. Okay, so here's what's interesting. There are two decks, but this one has challenge cards that say reflect, and this one has challenge cards that say explore, and then challenge cards that say practice. So there's 3 different types of challenge cards. So I think that's going to be kind of interesting. I read the beginning, but I didn't read the second half of the little pamphlet here. So challenge cards. Challenge cards provide endless ways to experience color with Palette Scout, mixing them up, drawing one at random, or work through each category at a time. Reflect. Push your creativity to new places with prompts that delve into your own relationship with color. Practice. Put concepts into practice with playful exercises. Explore. Find palette inspiration in nature or visit a museum and analyze artist palettes. Color relativity. Our perception of color changes based on the influences of from its surrounding hues and colors. Yeah, so this is a concept I'm familiar with. I don't know how to really use it in my color exploration, but it's the whole idea that just depending on what else surrounds a color, it can look very different. So if you take the same 2 colors, what's in the elongated oval here, but you surround it by different colors, it tends to make that color look a little bit different to you. So I think that's kind of interesting. Color relativity experiment. I think these must be different types of challenges, so that's kind of exciting. All right, so let's explore these first. Okay, so that's pure white, pure black, which we don't have a white card and a black card. Okay, so let's look at, I think there were 7, I think it said there's 7 value tool cards. So that's these right here. We have an all white, all black, And then, okay, look at that. Okay, so we've got from pure white, 10% black, 25% black, all the way to 100% black. Okay, so those gives us that gives us our values from light to dark. Now, interesting. So this gives us what looks like. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, interesting. Okay, so this kind of tells you for this value of card. If we look at it, it actually tells you this lists all the unique hues in the color cards that are in the original palette scout. And so it actually tells you which cards in that color are of this value. And you can see some of them are the one cards, most of them are the one cards, but then some of them also include the two cards. And even this one would include the 3 card in lupine, would be considered this value. So that's kind of interesting. So the reason why that's interesting is because I've always wondered a little bit about that, because generally when I'm looking at the value of a card, I was just looking at the numbers and I was kind of assuming, get a good range of 1 through 5. But value really is if you were to take a photo of the color cards and then turn it into a black and white photo, where on the grayscale would it fall? And it can be very different. So let's look at, for example, let's take out Neptune, just so that we can see. No, let's take out the lupine, and maybe it'll make a little bit more sense when we look at the actual cards. And then let me see if I can find something. Okay, so then let's then look at amber. I think those will contrast and probably sort of show what the value of these value cards would be. So if we look at the two extremes, and mind you, I'm just sort of figuring this out as I go. This was my very first time. The instructions were kind of minimal, to be honest. So as I figure this out more, I'll have more videos on this as I use it and as I kind of discover how to use these tools. But right now I'm just kind of developing an initial impression and initial thoughts about how this is meant to be used. So let's look at amber and lupine. Amber is this first one here. Lupine is here. So if you look at lupine in the, this is like 90% black. It's the cards 1 through 3. And over here, as you get to the lighter and lighter, like if you look at lupine here, there aren't any cards really that would fall into the, I think this is 20% black. Yeah, or 25% black. And so it's a color that inherently is, tends to be a little bit more on the darker value, the darker side of the value scale here. Then when you look at amber, it's kind of the reverse. So if you look at it, amber in the darkest end, there's the 1 card. The 2 cards are split between these 2 values. And then most of the cards are in the lightest. and it's kind of the reverse of lupine. So that's why I pulled those out, just to show. There might be other examples. So if I look at the lupine cards, look how dark these colors are inherently. And so basically what this is saying is when you create a color combination, it's nice to have a lot of contrast between your colors so that they complement each other, because if they're too similar, they're going to not really, they're just going to blend into each other, so none of them will really stand out. And if that's what you're going for, then that could be an option if it's intentional. But if what you're going for is a color combination where everything feels harmonious, but at the same time, some colors really pop and some fade, it's nice to have a variation in value. Not only that, but some people might be colorblind, and when some folks are colorblind, it's not always the fact that they can't see that color at all. Sometimes that is the case, but even in the most extreme case, I think colorblind folks can still appreciate value differentiation. And so we all perceive color a little bit differently, but I think the value difference is something that maybe we all, it's a little bit more, there's more of a commonality between us all, whether we have any color blindness at all. So when you look, and that's just speculation, I don't know that for a fact, but if you look at lupine, it does tend on the darker side. So they would consider these two plus their tones to be in this value range, and the 3 pure intensity is this value range, which surprises me. But then flip to the back side, the tone version of lupine 3, that would fall into this value range. And then in this, which I'm guessing is maybe 50%, that's where 4 and the tone of 4 would be. And then number 5 card is here. So there's nothing in lupine that is in this value. Then when you look at amber, if I organize this by number 1, 2. So there's that. So amber has 3, 4, the tone of 4, 5, and the tone of 5. So really these 2 cards plus their tones, you can see how light they are, right? So those go there, and 3 is here, and the tone of 3 is the next value. So that's kind of like that. Amber number 2 sits here, and the tone of 2 is here. So it's kind of split between those two. And then the number 1 card and its tone are back here. So the way that I was doing creating my color palettes before was I was just looking for a mix of the numbers. I was going very kind of just intuitively once I looked at it, but I was really, as a first pass, looking to just grab some of the same numbers or different numbers to make sure that I was getting a variety of value. But you can see that all of these, in spite of the fact that there's 3, 4, and 5 numbered value cards, but they're all technically in this same value because of just inherently some colors are a little bit lighter and then some cards are a little bit darker. So you can't strictly just go by the number themselves. And so that's why this helps you to actually kind of create a palette that is going to have some good variety in value. So if I take out the amber card Um, technically, let's look at technically the complement is the purple triangle. Split complement is the pink circle and purple square. So let's actually try to create a color palette. I'll use amber. Lupine doesn't seem to be in one of those suggested palette combinations. So let's just keep it simple with 2 colors, and I'll pick out the whatever the purple triangles happen to be, and that is Jewel. Okay, so I've got the Jewel cards. Then what I'm gonna do is, if I were to pick a color palette combination from these, let me do it the way that I would normally do it, and then I'm gonna use this and see if that would change my selections. So I would look at these cards and I would pick a color that to me would be kind of like, I don't know, the color I like the best. So I think that would be this number 3 card. And then my next goal would be, I would just look at trying to get something in the 1-2 range and then try to get something in the 4-5 range, split between all of these. So then I would maybe kind of flip between the 2 and see, what, oh, I kind of like that, as I'm holding it up to the cards, I would just kind of see what I like. Kind of like those. I feel like that's really light, so maybe I'll throw in another one. I've got 1, 3, 5, so maybe I'll grab a 2. Oh, I kind of like that. And then I'll just kind of play with it a little bit more, just to see if... Sometimes it helps to rearrange the cards a little bit also. And I feel like I might want another bit of the Jewel. Maybe in this. Maybe I'm okay with this I think I'm okay with this palette. Do I want to add more amber? No. I kind of like this because it feels very neutral, and then this really helps it to pop. Because this is so dark. It almost seems like it's neutral. Okay, so I think if I were left to my own devices, I would do that. So then let's look at if we really do have a spread of value here. So amber, number 5 tone, that's here. Jewel, number 1, the tone card, is here. So we've got the 2 far extreme options. 3 in Jewel is here. And the 2 tone card is actually here. So as it turns out, I'm very heavy over here. So, and then these 2 are, as it turns out, the same tone or same value, sorry. And so maybe, and that was just me kind of intuitively playing with the cards and just going by eye, like what looks pleasing to my eyes. And I think that's a perfectly fine way to play with the color palette because, you have to love what you're creating. But sometimes it's helpful to know what would be pleasing to other people's eyes as well. So if I were to recreate my palette and instead really try to get something in the middle as a middle value, I hit the far ends pretty good, but something in the middle value, and maybe try to have more distinction and no overlap, but still using 4 cards, what would I do? So let's say I said that this one was my favorite. So let's say if I wanted to pick a amber card to replace this one since it's the same value, but instead have it be one of these two, then the options are, if I flip this to this, it does make it, I do see a difference because this is darker and it's pretty close to that color. And so if I flip to this and it's the pure intensity of amber, that gets me here. If I'm looking to go a little bit lighter, then the suggestion is the number 3 tone card. And so then that becomes the palette. So how does, take a mental snapshot of, I think I had it, I can't remember what order I had it in, but imagine it looks a little something like this. So there's that. My original was this. How does that compare to that? And then how does that compare to this? So this was my first choice. This, I think, is an improvement. I kind of like this actually better than my first choice. I do like that better. And then this is another option that pushes it into that value. I think this is okay, but my personal choice would be this. But you let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. What is pleasing to your eyes? Do you see any difference at all in the overall palette? I feel like this looks just fine, but it is an interesting exercise to kind of use the cards as a way to maybe do some fine-tune adjustments. So I feel like the way that I'm inclined to use these cards is to do just this, to lay it out, do my normal process for choosing my color palette, and then fine-tune it so that I do get a good spread and maybe not so much overlap. Because I think this gives me a really nice palette that I still like. It's not too different to my original, but then it gives me more range in value. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so that's the value cards. And I'm guessing there's going to be classes that go with this. But what it says about the value cards is use these cards to check value contrasts while scouting palettes. So that's kind of neat, right? I think that's pretty cool as a way to just play with your color combinations, but just do a little bit of a double check. So they're kind of suggesting that that's how it's intended to be used as well, is to just check, whatever palettes you're coming up against, use this as a check so that you can just see how it stacks up against the various different values. Oh, this is kind of fun. So these are the proportionality cards. This is cool. There are 15. Okay, so I'll do the same thing. I'm going to show you how I would normally play with proportionality, and then I'll show you what these can do for you. So there's like a little cutout. That's kind of neat. And so you get different sizes, different shapes. Here, I can do this. So you can see it like that. Or if you want to use a lot of it. Interesting. I mean, I don't know that the different shapes have anything to do with anything, because effectively these are kind of the same proportion, right? Because the part that's cut out is about the same area. But just here's how I think you're kind of meant to play with these cards. So if these are my, if this is my palette, and I've said that this is my favorite color, so I kind of want this to be the dominant color. So I'm going to choose one of these. Let's put the value cards aside since we are done playing with that. Okay, so now we're looking at the proportionality cards. So this jewel number 3 being my favorite color of this palette, I want it to dominate. So I want it in full force. I want a lot of it. And then you can kind of play with what does it look like if you have different proportions of the other colors. So let's say we want not an equal amount, but maybe the next, I'm just spreading these out to find a size. Let's say if I just want a little bit of this dark color because it's like super duper dark. So just a little bit of that. I feel like this color really represents amber pretty well. So I want like a medium, because this looks almost like a neutral. This looks almost like a neutral because this is almost kind of like a beige, and this is very, very dark. So I want, you know, the colors to be noticeable and not just neutrals. So I might want something like that. And in this one, maybe, see, the thing is these two are about the same. But I guess that's kind of nice. You would have some options if you wanted the same proportion for multiple colors. So let's set all of these aside. This is kind of fun. So then when I go to create my project, that's something that I might strive for. So I would look for things in those colors, and when I represent them on my card, I'm going to try to have a lot of this color and maybe almost equal proportion of these two, and just a very little bit of the darkest color. And maybe that's like my sentiment, for example. And so that's one potential way to kind of proportion these colors. But what if we played around and we have like just as much of this lighter color, or nearly just as much? So it might look a little something like that. If we have everything in the same proportion, which is almost an option, what if it looks more like that? So things start to shift a little bit, and I don't know pragmatically how this is gonna play out necessarily, but that's how I feel like you would play with the cards, just to kind of see what looks good. Like, what does it look like if I put like a lot of the darker color? How does that then change like the feel of the overall palette? Here's how I would normally do this exercise on my own, without these proportionality cards. Normally what I would do is I would just hold these cards up like this and say, okay, if I want this color to be prominent, I would start to kind of block off things, and then, you know, do a little something like that. And then I would use like a bit of black cardstock just to block off the rest. So that's kind of how I would do it on my own. It doesn't really give you as good of a sense of like proportionality as the cards do, because the cards actually block everything out. But what I don't know, just in terms of practical use, is like if I did that, let me just try this exercise again. What if I did like very little of this. So it's kind of the same thing. Just do very little of that, a medium amount of this one, and this being somewhat neutral, let's give it, a lot. So if I did that, how do I feel about that palette? I kind of feel like what they're saying is your dominant color should take up most of the space, 60%. I'm reading it from here. Supporting colors are visually important, but not the focal point, 20 to 30%. And then accent colors should be used sparingly, so 10% or less, and use sparingly, provide a clear focal point. So interesting. So what if I like this color the most, so I want this to be my focal point? So then I use just a little bit of that. And let's say I use a lot of that, maybe as a background or something. And then what would I do with the rest? So let's get a good chunk of that. And maybe a little bit of that. It kind of does change the feel a little bit. So that this, which is sort of like very colorful, you could almost see the rest of this is very neutral. If you just use it very sparingly, then it kind of pops a little bit more against all of the more neutral colors here. One of the things I think I'll do and explore in a separate video is maybe I'll make one card 2 ways using all the same supplies and the same palette, and then just play around with the proportion and see how a finished card, if it looks any different or feels any different when different proportions are used for each of the colors. But this sort of seems like an interesting way to play with this. And so what it says is lay proportionality cards over the palette scout cards to view your palettes in varying proportions. So they give you a little bit of an example there. So that's kind of cool. Okay, so those are our proportionality cards. I really like these, what they're calling the tool cards. I think I'll probably use the value one a lot. I'm still a little bit unsure what difference the proportionality cards will make. But I think about it as I'm designing my palette, so I think I'll use these cards quite a lot. And so I'm excited to kind of delve into them a little bit more. But I'll leave that for a separate video. Let's explore the challenge cards and see what these are all about. So it looks like there's 3 different categories, and there's a lot of challenge cards. So there's a sizable stack of them. The original Palette Scout did come with some challenge cards, so I can show you what those look like. They were like this, and they were prompts and exercises to help you explore and play with your Palette Scout cards. So let's see how these ones differ. So I read the description, but I'll read it again. So reflect is meant to push your creativity to new places with prompts that delve into your own relationship with color. Practice is put concepts into practice with playful exercises. And explore is find palette inspiration in nature or visit a museum to analyze artist palettes. This one's kind of interesting. I wonder... Oh, that is interesting. Okay, I kind of thought explore would actually be photo. inspiration. So I kind of feel like that's like a maybe a missed opportunity if none of these have that. But what is explore really? Make a color palette and cook a meal based on it. That's interesting. I don't know that I would do that. Take out a shirt that you like, find its closest match within the palette scout deck, and create a split complement color palette inspired by your shirt. Oh, okay, I like that. Can you make an outfit with this color palette? That's kind of cool. Go to a museum or gallery and identify a painting that you like. Can you use your palette scout cards to figure out? You don't have to physically go to a gallery if you don't want. To be honest, you can just do a Google Images search for a painting and do the same. Make a color palette and put an outfit together based on this. Go outside and pick a leaf. Find its closest match within your palette scout and create. Okay, I kind of like these. I think the idea behind these, which I appreciate, so maybe having like a mix between these, which I think kind of give you some prompts for using what's in your everyday as inspiration for your color palettes, and going vice versa with it as well. So creating color palettes and then bringing them into your everyday life. And so I kind of like these prompts because it does help you to do exactly what it's saying, like explore the world around you and see how that can inspire color palettes with the cards. I do kind of feel like it might be nice for some of these to maybe have like a photo. So, for example, head to a coffee shop or tea house and order a drink that you like, make a palette based on it. Wouldn't it be nice to have a photo of the, like a coffee or a drink, a tea, something like that? So I kind of feel like some of these cards, especially where there's room for it, maybe not all of them, but it might have been nice to include a photo so that you have the benefit of being able to do this exercise without necessarily traveling to a coffee shop or going to a museum. And here's a movie, watch a movie. Maybe they could put like a fake movie poster or something. Like I'm sure some stuff would be, licensed or whatever, and so it would be hard to get the license to be able to use it in this way. But that said, it would be kind of interesting as a way to kind of fill the white space here for some of these, to have some photo inspiration as well, so that you have something kind of immediate that you can put into action. And so I kind of feel like, and even if it wasn't like a real movie poster, for example, I mean, you could just put together like an AI generated movie poster. With AI generated art these days, you can do so much. So I like the idea of this. I feel like what might have made it a little bit more immediately accessible and usable would have been to kind of include some actual photo inspiration on some of the cards. Maybe not all of them, 'cause some of them have a lot of words on them. So maybe on the ones that are a little bit shorter. Okay, let's look at the practice ones. We might do one of these. Lay out a color relativity experiment. Place reed 4 and garnet 2 next to each other, flame 3 tone sideways in the middle, and the white card on top. What do you notice about how the color changes? Well, let's do that. Well, these are kind of cool. Okay, so these are very instructional, and I think they just rely on the palette scout cards. Okay, so let's do this one, and let's see what that entails. So layout. Okay, place reed 4. Reed 4. Okay, that's reed 4 and garnet 2. garnet 2. Okay. And what else do I need? Flame 3 in the tone. Flame 3 tone. Okay. So I'm gonna do that, and then now what do I need? The white one? Okay. Place read 4, garnet 2 next to each other. Flame 3 tone sideways in the middle, like that. In the middle on top of them? I'm not too sure. Okay, and place and the white card on top. Okay, the white card's from the value. Like that? What do you notice about how the color changes? Okay. Let me see. There's that. This is one of those things where, like, how do things look relative to one another because of what's surrounding it? So if I look at that, and then I look at it like this, I mean, they definitely feel like they pop a little bit more because there's more contrast between them. Like, they look a lot more distinct, but with this, you don't really notice this as much, I feel. This still pops, still looks like there's a lot of contrast, but these two kind of fade into one another. But with the white, it really does offer some contrast. And I'm not really sure what I was supposed to learn, though. I kind of feel like maybe on the back or something it would say, what was I supposed to notice? What was supposed to happen? Alright, let's try another one. Oh goodness. Okay, I'm gonna just pick one at random. That was just the top one. Let's see. Which? Interesting. Take out. I don't think I'm gonna go exactly random. Interesting. So some of these are almost like, okay, if you had these colors, it's kind of interesting. Okay, let's just do one. What I'm noticing is that some of these truly are practice, because they get you to the point where quite possibly you don't necessarily need the palette ideas card anymore if you can just sort of train yourself to naturally understand how to create the various different color palettes based on color theory. So here, for example, it says take out the midnight cards. So let's do that. Let's take out my midnight cards. Okay, so I have to say though, one of the things I really like about the Palette Scout is that you don't actually have to learn color theory. But I don't know that I'll necessarily explore this a lot, but I do like the idea that if you do want to get intuitively better at creating color combinations, these practice cards might be a way to achieve that so that you can sort of develop that intuitive sense. So now it says, because it still gives you a little bit of hint and guidance, but it doesn't necessarily give you the answer. Okay, so it says which circle and square card, square colors on the color wheel do you think are its split complements? Create a split complementary color palette using Midnight. So a complementary um, a complementary color is one that's opposite on the color wheel. So if Midnight is a triangle here, I think opposite it would be like maybe Daylily. So also a triangle. And so complements will have the same shape. But a split complement would be you find the complement and then you take the circle and the square on either side of it. Okay, so final answer. Oh gosh. Final answer. The split complement, my guess of the split complement for Midnight is going to be carrot, which is the circle, ember, which is the square. How do I know if I am correct? So I would go to the color card for Midnight. Oh, I'm kind of nervous. Turn it to the palette ideas, which are on the back. Go down to split complement and check it out. I got it right. Carrot, which is the circle, and the square is ember. Yes. Oh, whew, that was scary. I didn't know if I would get that right, but that one worked. Yay. Let's do another one just for the sake of it and play with it. Let's do. Oh, that's gonna be an interesting one. This one must be tricky. Okay, take out Amber 3. Amber 3. Oh gosh, this is gonna be Amber 3, Daylily 3. Oh gosh, this is gonna be hard. Midnight 3. This is going straight to my weak point. Oh no. And Pine 3. So remember I was saying that normally I would just go by the numbers, and my guess is that these are not the same value as the number would suggest. Oh man, this is gonna be hard. But I like this exercise. Okay. Oh man, this is. I'm nervous. Okay, so if I had to, oh my gosh, if I had to, they all look the same to me. Okay, let's try to figure this out. Okay, we're gonna go from darkest to lightest. Check the back of the value cards to see how you did. Oh goodness. Okay. Midnight's got to be the darkest. I mean, it's got to go something like that, right? That's my guess. Final answer. All right, let's see how we did. Okay, Midnight number 3. The darkest, let's see. Midnight number 3 is this value. Pine 3. So Pine 3 is here. Daylily 3 is here as well. So these two, ooh, so far I'm right. Okay, Amber 3 is here, which is the lightest. Oh, I got it. I actually got it right. Oh, I thought I would totally mess that one up, but I think I got that one right. So Midnight 3 is there. Pine 3 is here. Daylily 3 is on this card too. Amber 3 is here. Okay. This is a good exercise to do with, like, just take any 3 like any number of cards, but take the same number, and then see if you can identify where they are on the value scale. That was a fun one, actually. So far I think I'm 2 for 2. Yay me. I have been using the palette scout a lot, so So I am quite familiar with it, but that one did have me nervous. I thought that I would get that one wrong. Okay. So that was kind of fun. I think these are good for, really, like, as the name would suggest, really practice, developing, your color, like your color intuition, I would say, because I think you might, through these exercises, help to identify, maybe some weak spots, and then with practice, be able to get better at it, so that you're relying less on maybe the cards, and in particular relying less on the palette ideas, and then being able to just intuitively know, how to put together a palette. Okay, so let's see what the Reflect challenge cards are all about. These are more emotional, I feel, just based on this first one. Create a color palette that evokes joy. Create a color palette that reminds you of your favorite place. Create a color palette that feels wild. Create a color palette that reminds you of your grandmother. Okay, so these are kind of interesting. To be honest, I don't really know that I would do these. But what I would say is, that they're fun to do. It seems like a fun idea. I don't know if it'll be fun to do. But I feel like one of the things that, just first impressions, that this can, I feel like what would help me more practically, put this into use, is an example. Just like the Explorer, I kind of feel like, it's especially some that are, have like an emotion that is tied to it, because there's a lot of color theory around the like what emotion certain colors evoke, almost to the point of, there might be some psychosomatic responses that color can also evoke. So I remember reading once that, like, a lot of fast food places will have red in their decor, because red is like a very high alert color. It kind of keeps you, like, a little bit, I don't want to say anxious, but that's the best word I can think of, to where it's not a comfortable setting to sit in and just, linger. And it can also, because of that, generate a little bit of, like, it helps you to almost like digest and stuff. And so the idea is that you, like, subconsciously, if you go into like a fast food restaurant that employs, a lot of red in its decor, you may not realize it, but subconsciously you just don't want to stay there all that long. And a lot of fast food places, the reason why some of them are priced so low, is because it's a more high volume business. And so they want to be turning people in and out. And they don't want people there with long lines and whatnot, and, taking up all the tables and stuff like that. So they kind of want you to, come and go. Think by contrast, like a coffee shop. I don't know that often you would see a lot of red in a coffee shop, because, and it just depends, because coffee shops also, like to do good volume. I think any business wants to. But a lot of coffee shops are going for more of a, like, hey, this is a place to hang out. This is a place to meet. This is a place of community. And a lot of them will strive for a decor that actually helps people to feel like it's warm and inviting, and, sit down on our comfy chairs and spend oodles of time. And so because there's actually well-founded theory in color and the emotion that it evokes. It would, again, I feel, would have been beneficial to have a little bit of a photo inspiration that would be evocative of, what they're trying to get you to do on your own. And then that way you can sort of feel like if you don't have a clue how to create a color palette that that creates joy, for example, or evokes joy, you have a starting point of something. And one of the things, and without really understanding, things like trademark, copyright, or whatever, but one of the things when I compared the palette scout and how you would use it to the color cube is that the palette scout, I feel, is more of a tool, whereas the color cube is more of color inspiration. And I feel like this might have been a good opportunity to bridge that gap where you've got a tool, you've got these prompts that I feel like can be useful and reflective as the type of challenge card is indicative of, but then it might have been nice to also have some photo inspiration that then gives you some place to start. And it would have been nice to show like a photo inspiration but not actually tell you what colors from the palette scout to use, just to give you a photo of like whatever, something that typically would evoke joy or typically would evoke, love, etc. And again, it might not be like all of these, cards would have an opportunity to include a photo. But for example, here, think of a pet or animal you love, create a palette based on their favorite things. Just a photo of some dog toys, random dog toys. Stuff like that. I kind of feel like it's always nice because I feel like it's very hard to conjure something out of nowhere. You know what I mean? And so I think this is a nice prompt, but then if you had something visual and nothing was coming to your mind, at least having something visual helps to kick off some of your creative juices. So like create a color palette for a kindergarten classroom. That's kind of fun. Make a list of 10 things you feel grateful for the next 10 days. Work your way down the list and make a palette for each of the things you wrote. Repeat as often as you like. I mean, I feel like these are very thoughtful exercises, which I think is unique and kind of fun as an idea. I just don't know that I would necessarily do these. I think more because I don't really, unless I have like a practical reason to do it for my card making. I just, because some of these are doing it just for the sake of doing it, right? And I don't know that I have the time, but I do like the idea of these. But I have the same feedback. I feel like for the reflect and for the explore, it kind of would be good to have some photo inspiration. And just sort of going through these, I feel like they should have, it would have been nice to have more that are emotional. So something that evokes love, something that evokes joy. For example, I kind of feel like they should have all of the emotions. Even the ones that aren't pleasant. Something that evokes sadness. Something that evokes anger. Because if you're, let's say you, maybe you are like a movie director and, like the visual director on a movie, for example. movies are all about storytelling, and so you might want to know how to evoke anger, sadness, um, things like that, as well as things a little bit more positive like joy and love. And a lot of that is done, I'm sure, by the visual artists of, in movies as they're kind of scripting out scenes and whatnot. And so, or like if you are like a illustrator for like a graphic novel, or for any book, really, an illustrator for any kind of book that has images, there might be like sadness. You might want to have at your disposal the ability to create a color palette that actually evokes sadness. I feel like it would have been good to have those emotions, all of the emotions. It's fine to have to feel sad sometimes. It's fine to feel angry sometimes. It's just whether you let it consume you and how you govern, or whether you let that kind of define or govern the majority of your headspace. But I kind of feel like, because, like I said, there's a lot of color theory around colors and specific emotions. I feel like this could have been expanded on to include more emotions. I was just going through these very quickly, scanning it, and I don't think I see any other emotions. But yeah, it would have been nice to have at least those: sadness, anger, maybe some typical ones like, relaxation, something that feels energetic, something that feels kind of like the whole idea with the red, and something that makes you want to get up and go versus something that makes you want to sit and stay, something that gives you the kind of feeling of take action versus something that makes you feel like it's warm and welcoming, or whatever it is. So I kind of feel like those would have been nice for this. So that is my impression of the challenge cards. If I had to pick the ones that I think I'm going to put into use, probably are the practice ones. I might do some of the Explorer. I don't know that I would do a lot of the Reflect ones. But again, for these two, I kind of feel like having some photo inspiration would have been really great. With these, I can say out of the gates, I think the value cards are going to be really beneficial. Like, I can see an immediate benefit to having these in the toolkit, and I think these will definitely complement how I use the Palette Scout. So I love those. The proportionality, I'm very curious about how to more effectively use these in my own projects. And so I'm kind of excited this might be the next thing, my next video, that I explore proportionality more and actually do as I mentioned. I'm going to create a color palette, value check it, and then I'm going to play with maybe 2, maybe 3 different proportionalities of those colors and see if I can create some different looks. And then I think the only other thing that I feel about the practice ones is that I feel like some of them needed like an answer. So if there were some that like I think it was that first one, the first practice card that I did, if there was like something I was supposed to notice, or something that I was supposed to get or learn from doing that particular challenge card, it would have been nice if they were more explicit with telling us what we were supposed to learn. But all in all, I do feel like the toolkit is going to be a really handy complement to the original Palette Scout, which I absolutely love. I think that it's going to kind of help me get more out of my Palette Scout, which I already feel is immensely valuable. So I super love the fact that we're getting some more tools and we're getting some more ideas for how to use the Palette Scout. And so I'm going to leave links to everything. At the time that I'm recording this, the toolkit isn't out yet. And but I'll try to come back and update, whether it's in the comments and or in the description box, a link for how to get it, and a link to how to get the original Palette Scout. And I am an affiliate with Zollie. Zollie did send me both of these to play with, to share with you, and it was by request for the original Palette Scout. I actually asked if they wouldn't mind sending me one. And they kindly did, and I've been hooked on it ever since. And so I was ever so grateful to be offered the chance to check out the new toolkit. And I'm going to give my feedback to Zollie, but it looks like the product is finished, so I don't know that it would change anything. But I always like to give my honest feedback to all of you and directly to the company as well. So let me know your thoughts. If you have the Palette Scout, let me know in the comments how you like it. If you're interested, have questions, things that you would like me to explore with the toolkit, let me know. I feel like everything is so well designed. Look at this. It's all continuous. And then the outside of the Palette Scout box all lines up. Man, they were very thoughtful. It really shows how thoughtful everything has been designed and put together. So my thoughts are my own, and they are just first impressions. So stay tuned. I'm going to be playing with this toolkit more, and I'll have more videos, and I hope to, in a few months, be able to share some final concluding thoughts on the new toolkit. Thanks again, and until next time, happy crafting and have a fabulous day. Bye.